So I will pass it off to Cindy for the first question.
All right. So overall, how do you think this past year has impacted your mental health? Alina, you can.
All right. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Alina, but just as a brief introduction, I guess, but I think to answer this question, I feel like this past year has been difficult for me and for everyone, I'm sure. Hi, Noelle. But I think that, this year has really put self-care and self-love to the test, and for some context, I've struggled with depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms about like 2 years ago, and the pandemic hit around 1 year ago. So within that first year, I felt like I was working really hard towards getting at a really good place. I spent that year actively working towards bettering myself mentally. But at the start of the pandemic, which was around spring quarter for us, I think that I went back home to live with my parents, and I think I probably only left the house less than 5 times during that spring quarter, which is obviously really detrimental. And I learned that later on, but my motivation went down the drain completely. And it was a really huge struggle to keep up with my classes while managing everything that was going on in the news, such as like anything related to the pandemic, but of course the social injustices that we were seeing happen around that time as well. So, like I mentioned, it was really a test to see how well I could take care of my mental health. So I think, after a period of adjustment, I felt like I was able to better figure out a new routine for myself. And I've had my ups and downs. Like I felt like I was doing better at the start of this year, 2021. But at one point in winter quarter this year, I experienced 2 unexpected losses in a span of 3 days. So that was, of course, really, really difficult. But I think that I'm continuing every day to, make sure that I'm sticking to my routine and my self-care.
Thank you so much for sharing. And Mo, would you like to?
Yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Anmol. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, it was undeniably, it provided me a break that I needed. Coming from like high school and like, college apps, junior year, AP, like everything would just go, go, go. And it did provide me some relief. But then as, kept on going, you kept on staying stuck inside. A lot of my struggles that I had just kind of pushed away with anxiety and with having an eating disorder since I was like 13 really came to light. I kind of felt like many people, I felt stuck and I felt very anxious for my future and for who I was. And I didn't know where I was going, especially as a first year coming into college. I had no idea what I wanted to do, how to talk to people in college. And it really just it kind of clouded my mind constantly. I was constantly worried, constantly anxious, and I just couldn't function. I just felt so, I don't know, like alone and like very rigid, if that makes sense. And with struggling with an eating disorder, it was a lot of like those, I a lot of the trends that were coming, like, like Chloe Ting, and not to call, but a lot of those, like a lot of focus on like working out, starting to coming out like, oh, the pressure of like, oh, I have free time, I need to work out now, or I need to like, do something and like lose weight. Um, it really, it really made me come to light with a lot of the things that I was pushing away, and um, focus on how to like combat those issues in a healthy way. And I'll definitely get into that in the later questions. But yeah, those were a lot of the struggles that I faced.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Christina, would you like to go?
Yeah, so the past year has been pretty bad for mental health nonetheless. I've always struggled with my mental health, but that definitely similar to Anmol, like, just I realized I'm so good at masking. So it's just, there is only so much I could have masked like this whole time, which is like, you know, that good and bad where it's like something has to break so you can like rebuild yourself more than anything. So the way I like to see it is like, yes, I'm broken, but I'm going to take the pieces that I like of myself. But it's been really bad. I was diagnosed with like bipolar 2, like when was it? Like almost 3 years ago. So definitely it's been a big struggle. I was coping very well like before the pandemic, but then after that, it's just I lost so much. Like, you know, they closed the gyms, exercise helped a lot with my mood stabilization, but like, you know, a lot of things were taken away from me. So it's just hard. And then just like, it's my last year here. Nobody wants to hear your last year before you graduate, academic probation or subject to dismissal. Like it's just been bad. So it's like one thing is the things that I've been feeling, but I think what's worse when we're like, we talk about our mental health is the consequences of that. And I think that shame is what I think makes us like kind of dig a deeper hole, you know? So it's just been my experience and stuff. And, you know, definitely I could elaborate as the questions go on.
Thank you for sharing. Leilani?
Hi everyone. Thank you all for sharing previously. My name is Leilani, by the way. So reflecting back on the year, I would have to say like previous year, it took a really big toll on my mental health personally. Like a lot of events were unraveling amidst a pandemic. And it was one right after the other. And I had a lack of time to digest everything completely. And because I was just focusing on the next, like what's happening next, like where am I going to put my energy? And with that, I was also like doing school and personal like, family issues. And one of the toughest parts of the pandemic was dealing or watching my grandpa health slowly deteriorate. And all I could really do was just watch and just be there for him. And like while that was happening, I saw like my dad, like his mental health was deteriorating too as he was taking care of my grandpa. It was just really hard to see like the people you love go downhill, and all you can really do is just be there for them. And while that was happening, the question I asked myself was like, why? Just why me? Why now? Like, why this? And for most of the situations, I had a lack of control over. And all I really did have control over is how I would react to the situations. And due to the lack of control, it heightened feelings of anxiety, confusion, frustration, and sadness. And through that, I had like a lot of stress on my back, and it reflected through like my body. Like I had an eczema flare up like on my face, and it was just really bad and painful. It was really hard to smile. I really enjoy smiling, but it just hurt so much. But with that, it really reinforced the idea that, or the fact that how important your mental health is, and like the connection between your mind and your body. So with that, I want to start cultivating a more like open environment, like more loving environment for myself, and providing good things for myself, like mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, like being more cognizant of what I ingest, like through my eyes and ears, and how I speak to myself. And reaching out to friends it really did help me a lot. Like it really showed that you don't have to go through this alone. There's people that do want to help you. And I'm so like grateful for that. And lastly, like one of the takeaways from that year is it's important to feel your feelings. Like if you keep putting them down, it just builds up a lot of pressure, and you don't know when you're gonna release it, and it can be released at points that you don't want it to be released. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to feel your emotions and be vulnerable. Don't be ashamed. Like that's what makes us more human, and helps us realize that we're not alone. But yes, that is my answer to the question. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing all of that. It's really important that we are all vulnerable and just transparent about our own struggles and our own experiences, because it does help for other people to know that they're not the only ones that may be feeling some of the same things that y'all are feeling. So thank you so much for that. I guess, kind of moving on into kind of how our personal relationships have been changed or impacted since we are in a virtual format. How do you all think that this past year and the pandemic and all this just virtual situation has impacted your own sort of social relationships and social connections, or even just ability to connect with other people? Leilani? Oh wait, you did, never mind. Okay, Alina.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely impacted my personal relationships. So to give some context, I joined an organization on campus that fall quarter, right before that, going into the pandemic. And I was a third year at the time. I really wanted to find a new community at UCI where I can, find some of my best friends. And because again, like I went back home in NorCal during the start of the pandemic, I felt like I wasn't really able to continue developing those friendships that I actually thought were going to become some of my best and long lasting friendships. And, even now, a year later, I still feel like I've been more on the cautious side. And, I'm really happy for my friends who hang out frequently because they get to develop that friendship further through every meetup. But I feel like I'm slowly drifting apart from at least that group of people, which is unfortunate. But, it's for me, I feel like it's for my safety. So it's understandable. And I think something that I am really grateful for is Discord. So at the start of the pandemic, or maybe around summertime, we had like this huge Discord with a bunch of my friends from different times of my life that kind of came together because we wanted to just stay connected with each other. So I also started gaming, and I think that's a really great way to stay connected with people who also game, and we can just check up on each other every time we hop onto a game and play on Discord. So overall, I think that while not everything worked out the way that I wanted it to, I think surprisingly, we were able to make the most out of what we had. And I'm trying my best to stay satisfied with that.
Thank you so much. Dorothy?
Yeah, so my experience with the pandemic, it was really interesting because I was a first year when I came into the pandemic. And so it was my the end of my second quarter there. And I was, just building those relationships because I was such a shy person. I was finally starting to reach out to people being like, hey, hello. And then just entering the pandemic and just being like, okay, the only way to reach people now is online. And, I had that fear of just reaching out to people. I don't know why, it just is, And so it's just really hard trying to find that community and be like, okay, how do I find people to, support me while this whole thing is happening? Because obviously I didn't build much of a social support network when I was in college. And now that, I don't have a physical space where I can meet people, it's just really difficult. And I think that was a signal for me to okay, you have to, grow in different ways than you had to before, And so I started going to random meetings. If someone posted on Facebook, they had a meeting, I would go. It didn't matter what it was. And, I'd go to different meetings, find out which organizations that I really resonated with, and, just doing that. And then a lot of other people, I spent a lot of time on Zoom, calling people, whatever it was. And I think in my own household, it was a little difficult because a month before the pandemic started, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. So like Leilani, I was really struggling with the fact that, the people that I love was their health was deteriorating. And combined with the fact that it's a pandemic, you don't know how this virus spreads at the time that even know how to treat it. And it's just okay, my dad is immunosuppressed. What happens if I go out? And there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to that. And it was also the fact okay, I was grappling with the fact, what if I lose him? Right now he's doing really well, treatment's going well, but at the time, you don't know that. And I think it was trying to find ways to be okay, I'm gonna be okay with that. And I'm gonna find ways to connect with him now, in the case that I don't have this opportunity later. And so I think it strengthened my ability to connect with other people, as well as, making me prioritize building social networks. So yeah, that was my experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Dorothy. I'm so sorry that you've been going through that, but I hope that treatment has been going well for your dad. We'll move on to Sam.
So to start off, I just wanted to tell everyone, like the panelists, I really appreciate your vulnerability, and low-key, I'm kind of trying to like hold tears in because I really feel for all of you. But when I think of personal relationships, I think of it in two, my personal relationships with others and my relationship with myself. I feel like out of all the relationships, I think the relationship with myself was really affected by the pandemic, especially in the beginning. Was really active on campus winter quarter of 2020, and I had to abruptly get away from that space and like kind of be with myself toward the beginning when everyone was trying to figure everything out. So that kind of, it hit me really hard, and I started getting really insecure because I was thinking, would they still talk to me? Like, I know I just met them, and since I was a first year at that time, I was thinking back to senior year of high school when we were just friends because of convenience, and the fact that it's not convenient anymore to be friends. I was thinking that maybe they won't talk to me anymore. And in the beginning of the pandemic, I did a lot of introspection and just being like actually being present with myself and talking to myself through journaling and meditation, just so that I can reassure myself that I am here with me, and even if people don't talk to me, it's okay, and I shouldn't treat that as something personal. But surprisingly enough, I think as the pandemic progressed, people started becoming more knowledgeable in technology and just reaching out to people via the different apps that have become more popular, or even the apps and the platforms that have been created because of the pandemic. And in a lot of ways, I feel like my friendships did strengthen because a lot of us are in different parts of the world, especially since a lot of my friends being like graduates, they graduated like 2020. And so I probably wouldn't have seen them if we were on campus anyway, but they reached out. We started playing, like having game nights and movie nights, and we keep the chats active by sending each other memes and TikToks. And it's nice because I didn't realize how strong my friendships were in college until this very moment when they didn't forget me. And it made me feel nice that for once, I feel like I am in a place where I fit in and where I don't have to be as careful because I shouldn't be afraid of losing them, since they did go out of their way to like actually text me and be here with me. So that was really nice. And in terms of my family relationships, definitely, since I do currently live in my childhood home with my family, I feel like in a way that did strengthen, although I do admit that in the beginning there was kind of tension in the family, since we do have different views on certain things, and especially like my academic career, they have different views on how I should like live that. And being the eldest daughter, they had a vision for me that I just wasn't fitting. So at first it was very tension filled, but I had difficult conversations with them that I will admit ended in tears a lot. And this has been a thing throughout most of my like life. So in a way, after talking it out, even though it was really difficult, they were able to see what I was seeing, and now it's better. And now I feel like there's a balance between hanging out with them and also being with myself. That's what I sorely need. So yeah, overall, it did start off really rough for me and for my friends and family around me. But as I started exerting more effort, and as they exerted more effort, I feel like we found a balance and a common ground in developing our relationships and strengthening what we've established in the past.
Thank you for sharing. It's important to acknowledge that the pandemic has changed our personal experiences. So thank you all for sharing your personal experiences. The next question we have is, what have been your main methods of coping with stress and maintaining your social relationships? Eric?
Yeah, so for me, hi everyone, I'm Eric, by the way. For me personally, being a first year, kind of transitioning to the college environment, but not having a place, like an actual physical space to go to, has been super weird. So it's like, I feel like a college student, but I'm doing exactly what I was doing in high school. And I don't really go to lectures, but I'm watching them on my computer. So does that count? And just, I feel like there have been a lot of modifications this year that have really stressed me out, just because I'm like, I'm doing all these exams and they're like, yeah, they're going to be open note. Some are like open internet, they're just completely free. And I'm like, well, when I'm in person and have to sit down in a classroom and take these exams, how is that going to play out? So that's definitely been a stress for me, like thinking about next year and thinking about how I'm going to transition, how all that's going to go. But at the same time, I just try and remind myself that there's an entire cohort of students that are going exactly through what I'm going through, and just finding comfort in knowing that my friends and the people that are going through this with me can be a source of support for me, just being able to talk to them, being able to relate to other first years. And definitely joining the Mental Health Commission and feeling like there's a place at UCI where I can go to, where I can, call home, have people that are there to support me, have friends that I've made through this program. It's been really nice to just have a home here.
Thank you for sharing. Christina?
Question was coping, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I'm just gonna start it by saying not all coping is good. I've done a lot of coping and it did not look pretty. So I'm gonna just talk about that. So I am very avoidant. I get distracted easily, especially like being back home. It's very hard, especially like just having episodes where I have higher energy. So it takes me like probably 3 hours to read a paragraph, where I cannot sit down on a lecture and stuff like that. So literally I'll look at something, I'm like, I should probably go clean my bathroom. I haven't cleaned my bathroom in a few days. So I'll go clean the bathroom. Oh wait, then I'll see something. I'm like, wait, let me go to the kitchen. Then I start doing that. So I say cleaning is coping for me, but it's not that good. So it's just things I just try to avoid and can't. I've done a lot of crying. I coped with crying, those crying spells. It's good to cry, but when you like spend hours on, especially alone, definitely that's very draining. And again, you go through like ruminations and stuff like that. What else? Did a lot of sleeping. It's really hard to get up out of bed, especially like, those lows. I cope with sleeping too. It makes me forget about everything. Yeah, and it's been really hard to just try to be a student and stuff like that for me. And again, just binges, maybe other like vices, I don't want to, and stuff. And so yeah, coping did not look very pretty for me. Now it's better. I love running, so I would try to like go running and stuff like that. But one time it was like probably like 10 at night, and I just got off a meeting. I was like, you know what, I feel like running. And I was running. I did my usual like just 2-mile kind of thing. I couldn't stop running. I kept on running until I did like 5 miles. I've never ran 5 miles straight. And it was scary. I just could not stop running. That's when I was like, Christina, you are not okay. Like, this is not okay. So, we think like, oh, you ran 5 miles. That's so amazing. No, that was scary for me because I could have kept on going. And I was like, I need to rest and stuff like that. But I did get better at it. Journaling always helps me so much. Like, I'm always thinking and thinking and thinking. So I create these scenarios in my head, or like, I overthink and stuff like that. So literally journaling, I'm able to see my thoughts and I'm like, wait, that doesn't mean that, especially like about relationships and stuff like that. I overthink. So journaling has helped a lot. Oh, also, like, I know, I'm pretty sure a lot of us have taken the love language quiz and stuff. They tell you like, oh, for self-care and stuff like that. It does, but I think it takes a while to get there. I feel like you need to keep track of your behaviors. Like, my top one is words of affirmation. Like, I journal and stuff, but then also that's more of how we self-care. But then I think goes into like more also relationships. For me, it's words of affirmation. I can give it to somebody. I like hearing feedback, but then those are insecurities. I touched upon, like, I get uncomfortable sometimes with people like compliment me or give me affirmations. Like, I don't believe them. So I think it's like, it's very like, just keeping track of your own behaviors and being mindful of that. What does quality time look like? I like going on long drives and stuff like that. That really helps a lot. So there's are ways I've been coping and learning how to cope and stuff. So it's still a struggle for me, like just knowing how to cope in a healthy manner. That's my little rant about coping. Not all coping is good.
Thank you. That was very insightful. And Mo?
Yeah, so for me, as someone who comes from an Asian background, immigrant parents, a lot of focus is put on, your education, getting good grades and, going above and beyond and, doing all that you can. And sorry. So and that was, and I stressed a lot about it. There have been nights this year as a first year, I couldn't sleep because I was stressed about a test. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't pursuing enough experiences, pursuing enough extracurriculars, that I wasn't trying enough in classes, that I need to go to like all my teachers like office hours and all that. And like it took me a while to recognize that, you know, true education, true experience, and true knowledge is not about suffering. It's not about, I need to risk my mental health so I can succeed. That's not what, and I know that our world sets us up to fail in that way and fail in our and gives us the perspective that, oh, like in life we need to sacrifice things. Like you don't deserve to sacrifice your mental health. And it took me a while to recognize that my value is who I am, my experiences, my attributes, and it's not my grades. It's not, and it's not that GPA number. It's truly not. And it's hard to recognize that. And I totally understand that. And it's a struggle, it's just the constant telling myself like, it's okay to put myself first. And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay not to do everything. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to join a bajillion clubs. You don't need to take a bajillion classes. Take what you think is going to value you the most and take care of yourself at the same time. For me, I've focused a lot into yoga and a lot into like meditation. There's a really good yoga person on YouTube. Her name is Beth. So just look that up if you're ever interested. And it's just really helped me like tune into myself. And it's kind of given me confidence and putting myself first. So yeah, thank you guys. That's all those are my coping skills.
Thank you all so much for sharing. I think it's really, that's like really great that we all have kind of coping skills that you do use. And also kind of on the flip side, as Christina said, that sometimes we can take our coping skills and go a little too far with them, which then they become maladaptive. So it's important to kind of keep note of what we are doing. With the interest of time, since we are a little over, I guess as like final statement, just in like maybe one or two, if you were to take your experience and take the biggest piece of advice that you could and just kind of bring it down to like one or two words of advice for the people that are here for strategies of coping, what would that look like? Like, what would it be? Sam?
Take your time. It's okay to take your time.
Thank you. Christina?
You are the most important person in your life. Okay, that's point blank. And the counseling center is amazing.
Agreed. Eric?
Give space and take space. Be there for each other and also seek help when you need it.
I would definitely agree with that. Leilani?
Healing isn't linear, so take all the time you need.
Dorothy?
I would say to find a calendar that you like, and whether that be Google Calendar, your iPhone, whatever it is, and schedule in self-care, just because I know for myself that can be a little difficult, but doing that will help you prioritize yourself first.
Anmol?
Everything that you do, ask why you're doing it and if it's the best thing for you.
Thank you all so much for sharing your experiences and for sharing advice and just being here for everyone that is, participating in this panel. And for all of our attendees, I hope this was helpful for all of you just to hear others' experiences and just knowing that you're not alone in anything that you are feeling. Please do reach out to the Mental Health Commission if you need help with trying to find resources or trying to know where you should go. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Um,